My name is Dan. I built a company called Albert. I was the Chief Technology Officer and shared product director, so myself and my co-founder shared those responsibilities. It was a mobile bookkeeping product aimed squarely at freelancers, so one-man businesses. That was a successful company. Prior to that, I started a games development company, which was less successful. We grew it to a large user base, but never really made a financial success of it. So Chief Technology Officer means you take care of the technology side of the business. And in an early stage company, it's not really a high level role. You're not like directing people or managing people. There's usually just yourself and maybe a co-founder and one employee. So for the first 18 months of the business, I was a software engineer. I spent time taking designs and converting them into software that then ran on a mobile device that customers could use. As we raised more and more money, it became more looking outside of the business. What do customers want? How can I bring that kind of using the technology? And at that point, we hired people and it became more of a managerial role. As a CTO in an early stage business, you tend to not only be looking after the technology, but looking after the higher level product. So that would mean managing a design team, quality assurance, which is the people who test that the app works correctly. So you end up spanning quite a lot of the business at that point. When you're creating a business, you're not just creating the piece of software, you're understanding what a market wants, gap in the market, and you're trying to fill it. So the methodology really is understand what problem might exist, speak to some people about that problem, see if they agree. So be very non-leading. In our case, it was bookkeeping. So we asked people, what's the best thing about running your own small business? What's the worst thing about running your own small business? Can you tell me about a time you were scared about running the business? Can you tell me a time you were elated? One of the biggest fears people came back with us was, I never know how much tax I'm going to have to pay at the end of the year. And that kind of validated that there was something in the bookkeeping space. And so we started. And then it's just a cycle of ship the thing that you think people want. So ship, release, put out into the market, and then gather some more feedback. And chances are in your first version, they'll say, this is horrible, it doesn't do X, Y, and Z, and I need it to. So then you might put X into that piece of software, ship it out, get some feedback from the people who wanted feature X or piece X, bring some more people on board and hear their feedback. And you just get into that cycle of shipping your idea, seeing how the market reacts, ship your idea, see how the market reacts. And if you do that enough times before the money runs out, chances are you're going to be successful. Entrepreneurship is simple, but it's not easy. It's simple and there's quite a well-defined cadence of how to make it happen. And that is find a problem, solve a problem, find more problems within that problem, solve more problems within that problem. But it's not easy because it's usually a single founder or like a few people against the world or against a larger company. And that means you have time on your hands, so you have to work really hard, but you don't have the capital of the other companies until you can kind of prove that you've got something. My dad was very much teaching me that everything should be like a productive endeavor. So gifts and birthday presents would always be like a Lego or a Meccano or a science set. And that was a huge amount of fun. And also, whenever there was anything that needed doing around the house, whether it would be decorating the house or even just cutting the grass, I'd be the person to help. And at the time, that could be a bit frustrating because you want to go play out with your friends. But if I look at the skills that it's taught me now, it was the best possible upbringing I could have had. Previously, as a freelancer, I'd worked for companies such as the BBC. So I worked on the sport app on Android. I'd worked for RBS NatWest. That's where myself and my co-founder met, actually. So we designed and built the RBS NatWest mobile apps in the early days. We won awards. We were the first mobile banking app to be featured by Google. And that's really where we figured out we could work together. And it was a bit of a playground, so we'd try things and customers would like it or they might not like it. And we took that feedback into one other business, which wasn't a large client, but that was a company called Oink out in Los Angeles. So being out in Los Angeles was fantastic. I effectively lived on the beach. The office was right near the beach. It's everything you read about startups in TechCrunch, but I wanted more control over what I was doing, and I wanted to be solving my own problems. And my co-founder was feeling the same. So it was actually on a flight back from LAX to London Heathrow where we built the first version of Albert. It didn't work. It was just a prototype where you could see how you might manage your finances. We showed it to a few friends. They loved it. We showed it around a few co-working spaces. They loved it. And rather naively, that led to us quitting our jobs, assuming we'd have made a $1 million business or a $10 million business in the next year. It didn't happen like that. We were very lucky that it did happen in the future, but it was an interesting time, and I don't think we'd have been successful without it. Part of being an entrepreneur is being really uncomfortable with the way the world is today and wanting to change it tomorrow. And so that drove me to realize I didn't want to work for somebody for the rest of my life, because job security is a bit of a myth. And so even though I went back into other jobs, it was more as a freelancer. So I was picking my projects, I was better paid, so that if something went wrong, I could take 6 months, I could take a year off. So that was definitely a crisis. We had 1 or 2 crises at Albert where we thought we would run out of money. Fortunately, we had a great kind of set of investors, so they helped us manage that, and it didn't happen. And there's also times where you ship a product and customers turn around and they're really angry because you've changed something or you've broken something. I can't tell everybody how they should handle their crisis, but the way I handle a crisis is just by identifying why I'm in crisis, and then you've just kind of got to suck it up and get on with it. We had a great investment team at Albert, and I really can't take credit for it. So I had a fantastic co-founder. We had a really good complementary skill set. I would say he was very good at outward-facing activities, and I was better at inward-facing activities. So I could take what customers were telling us and translate it into a product, and he could create a vision out of that and kind of sell a big story. When you're starting a company, it's really important that you find a co-founder who complements your skill set, but it's also really important that you grow the team that you need with the right culture. So myself and my co-founder were still just human beings. We probably made more mistakes than when we got things right. The reason we were able to weather that sort of storm was because of the team we hired. So our team would capitalize on the good decisions we made. And if we made a mistake, they'd double down and they'd work really hard to recover from that mistake. We sold the business to Santander. It was a very short sale process. Some of the decisions you make very early on can make it harder to sell the company in the future. So we wouldn't likely make some of the mistakes next time. If my younger self saw me today, I suspect there would be a mixture of pride, knowing that kind of he became successful, and maybe an element of disappointment too, because as a younger self, I was into extreme sports. I was into a lot of things that I assumed that I would always keep up through my life, and I'm striving to get back to that. So I think my younger self would say, well done, but maybe you focused too much on the wrong thing for too long. I think my future needs to be much more balanced. So one of the questions I ask myself about the past that I think will inform my future is, would it have been easier to build a company as a healthier, fitter person? Would I have been able to work less hours? Would I have been less stressed? And I'd like to test that hypothesis. So that's why I'd like to build businesses that fit my lifestyle rather than bend my lifestyle to fit our business. If I was to give some advice to future founders, I think it's get really comfortable being uncomfortable. It's very hard to solve a problem that you're kind of interested in. It needs to be a problem that you feel really uncomfortable about. And it doesn't even need to be a big problem for somebody else. It might be that you're really uncomfortable with the hours you have to work, or you're really uncomfortable with your salary. I'm a big believer in that people don't change unless they're uncomfortable. So become really, really comfortable feeling uncomfortable, and take risks when you're young. It's better to fail 10 times in your 20s and have a success in your early 30s than it is to fail 10 times in your 30s when you've got a family to look after, you've got a mortgage, you've got lots of responsibilities. So just attack the world. That's the best advice I could give, just attack the world.